All right, so listener, get ready. Because today we are diving deep, deep into the world of date palms. I gotta say, when this request came in, with the Wikipedia, the scientific classifications, even a whole breakdown of the different types of dates, I knew we were in for a treat. Someone's been doing their homework.
Yeah, it's clear our listener is serious about really understanding this. It's not just a passing interest.
Absolutely, and we're here for it. So whether you're, I don't know, prepping for some big presentation, writing a research paper, or just incredibly curious about this ancient fruit, we're here to uncover it all.
Because it's more than just a tasty snack, right? This plant, the date palm, it's woven into like the very fabric of human civilization.
That's such a good way to put it. So, okay, let's lay some groundwork. We're talking about Phoenix dactylifera, part of that Ericaceae family, which, for those keeping score at home, means they're related to all those, picture postcard palm trees we see. But unlike those beach bums, date palms, they like it hot, hot, hot. Think North Africa, the Middle East, even parts of Australia.
And get this, they can live for over a century, 100 years. Just imagine the stories a date palm that old could tell. Talk about a long view of history.
Right. And speaking of how these trees do their thing, we've got to mention their dioecious, right?
Meaning, just to be clear, you've got your male trees and your female trees, and only the ladies, only the females actually bear the fruit.
Exactly. So those delicious dates we're always, snacking on,
Yeah.
all thanks to the female trees. And they're not all created equal, are they? The article mentioned all sorts of colors, like deep brown, bright red, even yellow. But one thing they all have in common, that natural sugar.
Nature's candy. And that sweetness, it's been a hit for ages, clearly. I mean, the fact that dates show up, over 50 times in the Bible?
Yeah.
Tells you something right there.
Right. It's one thing to be like, oh, yeah, they're mentioned. But like, why? They clearly were a big deal, even back then.
For sure. And speaking of back then, we've got archaeological evidence showing people have been cultivating date palms since at least 7,000 BCE. 7,000, that's what? Older than the pyramids? It blows my mind. That long ago, someone looked at this specific tree and was like, yep, that's the one we're going to cultivate.
Out of all the plants out there, incredible. It really makes you appreciate those early agriculturalists, figuring all this out. So how do they even do that? Was it all about planting seeds or?
You might be surprised to hear this, but historically, most of those, big-time date plantations, they've relied on cuttings, not seeds.
Cuttings. So like just snipping off a branch and sticking it in the ground. Seems kind of low tech for something we've been cultivating for so long, right?
It does, but it's super effective, especially when you consider that it's only the female date palms that give you the fruit. So by using cuttings from those females, farmers could be pretty sure they were going to get a lot more fruit-bearing trees in their orchard.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense. Still, talk about ingenuity, figuring that out all those years ago. But it gets even more impressive when you consider the pollination situation.
Yeah, because hand pollination, that's been the name of the game for centuries.
Wait, hold up. Hand pollination. Are we talking people climbing up these trees with tiny little bait brushes or something?
Not quite, but yeah, you're picturing the dedication. Skilled workers would carefully gather up the pollen from the male flowers. And then, yeah, they'd climb these massive trees sometimes to very delicately transfer that pollen to the females.
Talk about an investment in your crop, right?
Absolutely. Clearly, those date palms were valuable enough to put in all that effort. And honestly, I kind of get it. They're delicious. But it's not just about the taste, is it? We were talking about how they're mentioned in the Bible a ton, and you mentioned archaeology. Clearly, there's this whole cultural, religious side to date palms, too. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. Because date palms are deeply connected to some of the world's biggest religions, and that's worth exploring.
Okay, then let's explore. But first, a quick break. We were talking about date palms and religion before the break.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how significant they are.
Totally. So we were going to dive into those connections a little deeper.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've got Christianity, Judaism, Islam.
Mhm.
Where do we even start?
Well, how about with Christianity and Palm Sunday?
Oh, right. The whole commemorating Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, being greeted with palm branches, the whole thing.
Exactly. And while we don't know the exact type of palm used, given where they were,
It's probably a safe bet to say date palms were involved somehow. They were just so prevalent.
for sure. And then there's Judaism, where dates symbolize prosperity and are traditionally eaten during Sukkot.
Sukkot, right? The harvest festival. They use the palm fronds too, right? Like in the construction of the sukkah itself.
That's right. And then you've got Islam, where dates are super important.
They're in the Quran too, aren't they?
Yeah, and they play a special role during Ramadan. It's traditional to break the fast with dates.
That's right. After sunset during Ramadan, dates are the first thing eaten. for that quick burst of energy.
Exactly. Makes sense, right?
Totally. It's wild how one fruit can have such different meanings across different cultures and religions.
It really speaks to how deeply embedded the date palm is in human history.
Speaking of history, can we talk about those 2,000-year-old seeds for a second?
The ones found at Masada, oh yeah, that's an incredible story.
It really is. So remind me, how did they even know those seeds were that old?
Radiocarbon dating.
Right, of course. Analyzing the carbon isotopes, all that. But still, to find seeds that old.
And then to plant them.
Wait, they planted them? Seriously? I figured they'd put those things under glass or something.
Nope. They said, why not? Let's see what happens.
What happened?
Well, some of them actually sprouted.
No way. Are you serious? 2,000-year-old seeds, and they sprouted.
One in particular did really well. They called it Methuselah.
Methuselah. Okay, I love that. So what, is it like a huge tree now?
It grew into a healthy date palm, even produced pollen.
Get out. Seriously. From a 2,000-year-old seed. That just blows my mind.
Pretty amazing, right? It shows how resilient those seeds are, how much potential is packed in there.
You know, it makes you wonder if they planted those seeds. Maybe we should be looking at other ancient plants, too.
You never know what secrets are waiting to be discovered.
This deep dive is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about dates. But it's not just about the ancient stuff, is it? Date palms are still relevant today.
Totally. We've touched on some of it, but honestly, the ways we can use the date palm, it's incredible.
Okay, so spill it. What else can you do with the date palm besides, eat the dates?
Well, we've got the dates themselves, obviously. But those seeds that don't sprout, they're great for animal feed.
Oh, that's smart. Sustainable, too.
Exactly. And then there's date seed oil.
Date seed oil. What's that used for?
All sorts of things, actually. Cosmetics, skincare, it's getting pretty popular.
Really? So we're talking like sustainable, multi-purpose products, all powered by dates.
Pretty much. And don't forget about the fronds. We talked about them being used in religious ceremonies.
Right, and for building shelters and stuff, right, like way back in the day.
Exactly. And they're still used for all kinds of things today. Mats, baskets, even hats.
Wow. The date palm really is the gift that keeps on giving. What about the sap? We talked about that earlier, too.
Yeah, the sap is interesting. It's a popular drink in some places, and it can be boiled down into a molasses.
Molasses, yum. So is that what they do with it, mostly?
It's used in a lot of different ways, but it's important to be cautious with raw date palm sap.
Ooh, why that?
Potential for carrying the Nipah virus, unfortunately.
Yikes. Good to know. So enjoy your date palm sap, but maybe not straight from the tree.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry. But yeah, overall, the date palm really is incredibly versatile.
It's amazing. We've gone from ancient seeds and religious ceremonies to modern-day cosmetics and sustainable food solutions, all thanks to one type of tree.
It just shows you how interconnected it all is. Nature, culture, history, it all comes together.
You know, when we started this deep dive, I thought I knew a thing or two about dates. But clearly, I've got a lot to learn.
Me too, honestly. There's just so much to explore.
There really is. It's incredible, isn't it, to think about all that history, all those stories, connected just this one kind of tree.
It really is humbling when you stop and think about it.
Right. It's like, I love dates. I love how they look when they're growing, but I'll admit, I never really thought about like the full scope of what they mean,
It's easy to do, right? We see something every day, we maybe eat it, enjoy it, but we don't always dig deeper.
Totally. It makes you think, what else are we missing? But, okay, before we get too philosophical here,
Yeah.
we talked about all these different uses for the date palm, the fruit, obviously, the sap, those amazing fronds. But is that it? Or are there even more ways people use this tree?
Oh, there are definitely more. We haven't even touched on the trunk of the tree.
Really? The trunk, what do they do with that?
It's actually very strong, very fibrous. People use it for building, making furniture, all sorts of things.
No way. So, hold up. You can eat the dates, use the leaves to weave, drink the sap, make oil from the seeds, and you can build a house out of it.
Pretty much. And, in some areas, they even burn the wood to make charcoal.
Talk about a multi-purpose plant. It's like the ultimate sustainable resource. They were really onto something all those centuries ago, weren't they?
Absolutely. And I think that's a big part of what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating, Learning about all this, it's a good reminder that we can learn a lot from the past, from how people lived closer to nature.
So true, especially now, when it feels like everyone's trying to figure out more sustainable ways to do, well, everything. And maybe the date palm, it's not just a tree, it's like inspiration.
There you go. I like that.
So to all our listeners out there, next time you see a date palm, take a second, look at it, really appreciate it for its beauty, its resilience, and of course those delicious dates. And hey, maybe you'll even discover something new about this incredible plant. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.